One of our subscriber asked me something interesting. Can we run GitHub Actions on our own server instead of using GitHub runners? And honestly, most tutorials make it look very easy. So instead of explaining, I decided to build a real setup. Today, I'll take a fresh server, connect it to GitHub, and turn it into my own CI/CD runner. Now, we are not stopping at that setup. We are going to deploy an application, break it, and fix it. In our CI/CD series, we used GitHub hosted runners. Those were convenient because everything was pre installed. Docker, Node, tools, everything was ready. But in real companies, we don't always use GitHub hosted runners because of security, cost, internal infrastructure. And that's exactly what we are going to simulate today. Before anything, we need a clean server. I'm using DigitalOcean for this because it's very straightforward. And if you want to follow this exact setup, I've added a link in the description. You'll get $200 free credits. That's more than enough to run your own CI/CD pipelines, break them, and fix them like real production. Don't just watch this, try it yourself. This is actually why a lot of startups use it. You can spin up a clean Linux machine in a few clicks. So I'm going to click on create droplet, followed by I'm going to select the region. For example, I am close to Frankfurt, so I'm going to select Frankfurt here. We have multiple options. I'm going to keep it very basic because it is just to run our CI/CD pipeline. Ubuntu recommended. I'm going to select basic here. Disk type would be SSD regular, and this is more than enough for our use case. So I'm going to stick with this. Followed by I'm going to scroll down, add an SSH key. Here it showed the instructions as well if you are using PowerShell. I'm using WSL, so I'm going to open this link. We are going to use this command to generate public and private keys. Press enter. Default location would be the same, followed by provide the password, and then once again I'm going to repeat the password. Now we can see the key. We have the keys in this particular location. Provide the key name and click on add SSH key. We have successfully added the SSH key authentication, and then there are other options as well here, startup scripts and add a worry-free managed database. We don't need all of this. And then I'm going to give the droplet name as self-hosted runner. If you want, you can give the tag as well. Select an SSH key. I'm going to select this. Now click on create droplet. This will take a few minutes of time. I'm going to copy this public IP and use that to connect from our host computer. For that, I'm going to run SSH root at the public IP of the virtual machine, followed by I'm going to say yes, and then I need to provide the passphrase which I used for our public and private key. So now we are into the virtual machine which we created on DigitalOcean. So we can do whatever we like. For example, for our use case, let me try to run Docker version and check if Docker is installed. So Docker is not installed on this machine. So Docker is not installed because this is a very clean machine. If you want to try this yourself, I've added a link in the description. You can spin up your own server and follow along. Now, first, I'm going to update this machine. For that, I'm going to run apt update. Followed by, we are going to install some packages. Docker, curl, and git. Start Docker so that we can run something. I'm going to check the status of the Docker. Yes, Docker is running. Now comes our interesting part. Connecting this particular machine to the GitHub repository. Right now, I'm logged in as root user, and this is where most people make a mistake. They install everything, run everything as root, and move on. That works, but it's wrong. First, we are going to add a user called runner. So, I'm going to create a dedicated user here, give the password, retype it. Let's call it as a runner. I'm going to give ABC, room number 123. I'm going to leave it as default. That doesn't matter. Yes, adding new runner user, supplemental extra group users. So we have successfully added the user, followed by we are going to modify the user permission. I'm going to run user modification -a g sudo runner, followed by the same for Docker. I'm going to say Docker runner. Now we are trying to give this user sudo access, and Docker access is very important. We are trying to just modify it because our pipeline will need to run containers. Press enter. Now we are going to switch the user, switch user hyphen runner, and if you see, previously we were as root, now we are trying to run as runner. From this point, everything runs as runner, not root user. Docker ps, I do have access here. If you see an error, just try to log out and log in. Now we have a proper setup in place. Jump back to our production CICD repository. In here, let's click on runners, click on self-hosted runners, and then new runner, new self-hosted runners. I'm going to select Linux here and try to follow the exact steps which we see here. Creating a folder. First, I'm going to move this a bit aside. First, we are going to start with creating the directory and changing the directory. Right now, I'm into the actions runner directory, followed by let's try to download the latest runner package. Without this, we cannot connect to our GitHub repository. Then we have to validate the hash. Echo followed by the command which we have here. Hash is okay. Then extract the installer. I'm using tar command here to extract the installer. Once the extraction is finished, we are going to create the runner and start the configuration. All right, this is successful. Now let's try to run that command. We are trying to point out to our repository with a token. Press enter. Authentication successful. Enter the name of the, let me maximize this. Enter the name of the runner group. Default. Enter the name of the runner. Press enter for self-hosted runner. I would say Digital Ocean runner. Any label, I'm going to skip this. Enter name of work folder. Settings saved. Now let's look at the repository to check if the runner got connected. Click on runners, self-hosted runners, and I can see Digital Ocean runner. And let's look at the settings. click on actions, runners. I can see the runner is offline right now. Yes, the runner is offline. We need to run another command to make it online. I'm going to jump back to our Visual Studio Code and start the runner so that we can see it available. Connected to GitHub, listening for jobs. Let's try to refresh this page. We can see the status now idle. Previously it was offline. Now it is in idle state. The setup is done now. Let's jump back to our Visual Studio Code. In the Visual Studio Code, I have a deployment.yaml file, which I'm going to explain real quick. Name is deploying on DigitalOcean self-hosted runner, followed by the path is self-hosted runner. If you can look here, I have a self-hosted runner with application.py, docker file, requirements.txt, followed by here runs on self-hosted. Then checkout actions, followed by debug info, building the Docker image, stopping the old container, then running the container. Finally, we are trying to verify the application. In the application code, we have multiple endpoints. We are trying to do multiple things in this particular video. For example, home location, we are trying to check the health, version, followed by check the slowness endpoint, fail endpoint, random. I mean, we are trying to check multiple information. I'm going to show that real quick. For now, I'm going to add all of these changes, followed by commit, then add self-hosted runner folder, then push. I'm going to jump back to the actions tab, and you can see the pipeline started already, and I would like to check DigitalOcean pipeline, which is failing. That's good. Deploy, build Docker image. We are seeing the first failure now. Run Docker build DevOps application, unable to prepare context, unable to evaluate symlinks in Docker file path. Docker file, no such file or directory. We are trying to run that in the wrong location. So I'm going to add that real quick. Default working directory as self-hosted runner, followed by I'm going to add another part here. In other pipelines, we had manual trigger. I'm going to add this as well. I'm going to add workflow dispatch, environment, description, required true, default is dev. So I'm going to add this as well. The reason I'm trying to add here, because we are not changing anything in this particular folder. So I would like to run the pipeline manually because it's a pipeline change. So let's do that real quick. Git commit -m update pipeline git push. Now I'm going to jump back to the pipeline and let's try to run it once again. Main branch, run workflow. The workflow is running now. Finally, it's trying to build the Docker image. All right, I can see the pipeline is green now. Docker build was successful, and followed by I can see stopping the old container, running the container. This is fine. Verifying the application. This also looks good. Now let's try to access that real quick. I'm going to jump back to the DigitalOcean, and here now I'm going to search for this IP address, press enter. I can see DevOps demo app server version also I can see. I can see the response. Followed by, let me jump back to the Visual Studio Code and application.py. Here we can look at the information. For example, I can point out to the health endpoint. Let's do that real quick. /health. Status is OK. Let's go to this particular endpoint /fail. Error simulated failure. It is working as expected. Now let's go to the random endpoint. Status OK. If I do random failure triggered multiple times, I'm trying to do OK, and then OK once again, random failure. So this is how you run CI/CD pipelines on your own server. We didn't just deploy, we broke it, debugged it, and fixed it like a real system. I've added a link in the description. You'll get $200 free cloud credits. Use it to build your own runner, run pipelines, and debug real issues. But don't sign up if you are just going to watch videos. Use it only if you are serious about DevOps. That's where real learning happens. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.